China's government operative inflatable floated across the mainland U.S. in February, American knowledge organizations discovered that President Xi Jinping of China had become maddened with senior Chinese military commanders. The government operative organizations had been attempting to figure out what Mr. Xi knew and what moves he would make as the inflatable, initially focused on U.S. Army installations in Guam and Hawaii, was brushed off kilter. Mr. Xi was in favor of hazardous spying tasks against the U.S. However, American knowledge organizations reasoned that individuals' Freedom Armed Force had kept Mr. Xi in obscurity until the inflatable was over the U.S. American authorities wouldn't examine how spy offices gathered this data. However, in subtleties revealed here interestingly, they found that when Mr. Xi learned of the inflatable's direction and acknowledged it was crashing arranged converses with Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken, he scolded senior commanders for neglecting to let him know that the inflatable had wandered off, as indicated by American authorities informed on the Insight. The episode put a focus on the growing and exceptionally cryptic government operative versus spy challenge between the U.S. and China. The inflatable emergency, a little piece of a lot bigger Chinese reconnaissance exertion, mirrors a bold new forcefulness by Beijing in social event knowledge on the U.S. as well as Washington's developing capacities to gather its own data on China. For Washington, the reconnaissance endeavors are a basic piece of President Biden's technique to compel the military and mechanical assent of China, in accordance with his reasoning that the nation represents the best long-haul challenge to American power. For Beijing, the new capacity to bear strong activity among Chinese government agent organizations is driven by Mr. Xi, who has driven his military to take part in forceful moves along the country's boundaries and pushed his unfamiliar knowledge office to turn out to be more dynamic in farther-flung districts. The fundamental endeavors on the two sides are pointed toward noting the two most troublesome inquiries: what are the expectations of pioneers in the opponent country, and what military and mechanical capacities do they order? American authorities, a large portion of whom talked on state of namelessness to examine undercover work, have focused in interviews all through the year the extent of the test. The CIA is zeroing in on Mr. Xi himself, and specifically his expectations in regards to Taiwan. The FBI's counterintelligence teams the country over have increased their chase after Chinese endeavors to enlist spies inside the U.S. U.S. specialists have distinguished 12 entrances by Chinese residents of Army installations on American soil over the most recent year. The two nations are dashing to foster their man-made reasoning innovation, which they accept as basic to keeping a military and monetary edge, and will give their covert operative offices new capacities. Taken together, U.S. authorities say China's endeavors arrive at across each aspect of public safety, strategy and high-level business innovation in the U.S. and accomplice countries. The CIA, also, the Pentagon's Protection Insight Office have set up new focuses zeroed in on keeping an eye on China. U.S. authorities have sharpened their abilities to catch electronic correspondences, including utilizing spy planes off China's coast.